This is a dilemma I had for quite some time now, as I see more and more people turning away from feminism.
The world would benefit from the movement of talent from both sexes into the workplace as rapidly as possible is something that anyone with any sense should share.
As a writer, I have a unique perspective because when I write, I need to understand the world through the perspective of the character, even if I completely disagree with them. Most people believe that they are right in their beliefs, and that makes them act with a lot of conviction. Take a couple, for example, that has an intense fight about something. If you listen with an open mind and try to understand each perspective, both of them feel like the hero of the story while the other person is the villain. Before we go in further, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel a lot and allows me to keep improving the quality of the videos. Let's get into it. I was watching the other day an interview with Christoph Waltz, who plays General Lana in the movie Inglourious Bastard.
You're sheltering enemies of the state, are you not?
The character is a despicable human being by any objective metric, so the interviewer asked Mr. Waltz how he got into the evil frame of mind. He responded that the character didn't think he was evil. General Lana was acting under the conviction that he was doing the right thing.
I don't think evil as such exists. And therefore, I don't think an evil frame of mind exists. And therefore, I didn't really, attempt to get into it.
Point being here is that in our case, people who are against modern feminism operate under the conviction that it's a detrimental philosophy and not that they are somehow aiming to hurt society. I'm trying very hard in this video to stay away from politics and break this down specifically from a storytelling perspective. Because at its core, everything is about one question. What is the narrative? To start from the beginning, we need to define what feminism is. Feminism is defined by the belief that women deserve equal social, economic, and political rights and freedoms. To make it clear, it's a sub-branch of gender equality focused specifically on women. Some would argue that the conversation about rights should also include the idea of responsibility, though that's probably a topic for another video. First thing, self-naming doesn't make you something. One of the first things I've noticed is that sometimes people claim to be a part of the movement because it gives them social validation. They enjoy the benefit of belonging to it, but they don't always live to the principle that the movement stands for. To give you a very specific example, someone can be a very strong advocate for animal rights and they can really believe into the cause, but then they discover a rat infestation in the house, so the first thing they do is just call an exterminator. That makes them the kind of person who holds the principle whatever it happens to be beneficial for them to gain benefits or social compassion. That is a hypocrite. Another example is to call for higher taxes for rich people when you are in your 20s, flat broke and probably sometimes living on benefits. Many years later, you're in your 50s and have accumulated some wealth, and now you don't want the higher taxes. That means that your belief system changes based on your circumstances. The basic principle from here is that if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So going back to our feminism conversation, there is a noticeable number of people who claim to be a feminist when it's beneficial for them, but when the shoe is on the other foot, all that feminism goes out the window. Unfortunately, it happens quite often, and that paints a positive philosophy with the same color as the people who used it for their benefit. I'm not going to name names, so you probably know enough people like that. Second, a small percentage of loud people. We live in a widely technologically advanced era, and while more and more people have a voice, the internet still consists of a small percentage of loud people. I had the privilege to travel to a lot of countries, and I find it more often than not that what I read on the internet about the region doesn't exactly match what I find when I get there. Very rarely you get an objective truth, and that goes back to storytelling. Everyone will share their story, but yours can be completely different. We all have a different point of view. Sometimes the media can speak on behalf of a larger group and it's difficult to distinguish the narrative. In our case, it happens that a small percentage of people define what feminism is, and not because they are the most competent voice, but because they have the largest platform. Personally, I take everything with a grain of salt, regardless of the source. There's a lot of people I respect who have opinions I disagree with. Just because someone is loud doesn't mean they are necessarily right. Number 3, the narrative becomes the character. We live in a world where media is overly preoccupied with people's personal lives.
Things are clearly going brilliantly in your career. I just wondered if you are as happy in your private life, and will we be seeing a certain Mr. Ashton Kutcher perhaps making a trip over here?
Wow, how disappointing was that question?
People much smarter than I am have tried to figure out why, so I'm not gonna even try to elaborate on the reason, but feel free to share your opinions in the comments. Sometimes exposing an irrelevant flaw in someone's character can be a believable enough reason to dismiss everything they say. There are situations where that is the case, but most of the time it's not. To give an example, if you have a doctor who smokes, that doesn't constitute a reasonable argument to dismiss their advice for you to stop smoking. Sometimes you have people who do not hold themselves accountable for the principles they are preaching, but that does not make the principle wrong by default. Number 4. When the story stops feeling fair. This part is going to be a lot more direct and potentially offensive. So if you are feeling close to being offended, maybe now is the time for you to close the video. Last warning, okay? Here we go. Some people have hoped that the feminist movement had a larger impact than it actually had because it was implicit that most of the gender differences were social constructs. While that played a role, it wasn't just that. The biggest difference we know so far between men and women is in interest. Men tend to be more interested in things while women are more interested in people. I feel like some people can't grasp the concept that two entities can be different and still equally valuable. Just because men and women are different, it doesn't mean that one is more valuable than the other. So when the feminist movement started to pick up, a great deal of women felt empowered to get more involved into the workforce. When my mom was about to start her career about 40 years ago, she would have been a nurse or a school teacher. Nowadays, we have a much more welcoming workforce. Despite that, there were still a large percentage of women who willingly decided to forgo a career and focus on family. What happened after was that the implicit message of the feminist movement changed from a woman can be anything she wants to a woman can be anything she wants except a stay-at-home mom. The culture started celebrating women CEOs, #girlboss, but looked down on women who decide to focus on family. That feels very unfair because if you advocate for free choice, you should celebrate all choices, not just the ones that match your narrative. That made many people who were focused on the traditional family turn away from modern feminism because it just seemed to contradict their belief system. And last one, were addicted to extremes. When the feminist movement first appeared, that was the rebellion against the norm. A great movement trying to make some necessary changes to the way the society used to work. Fast forwarding many years later, now it's being against feminism that is the rebellion against norm. It's the most human thing to take things to the extreme, although we all know that balance is the key. You can take the healthiest habit you can think of and you'll see that taken to the extreme can become toxic. For example, drinking too much water can be really bad for you. You see that all the time, that people can take one trait of their value system and allow it to become the majority part of their identity. How can you tell someone is vegan? Because that's the first thing they'll tell you. People love to talk about toxic masculinity, but unfortunately there's also such thing as toxic femininity. That is one healthy principle taken to the extreme. That is all, folks. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing because it helps the channel a lot. And I'll see you the next time.